Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a big lineup of news that I'd like to share with everyone today. So, today's probably going to be the first time in over a week now that we don't have any significant strikes inside of Russia to report. There was drones entering into Russia last night, but nothing super extreme being targeted as far as I know. But over the last week, Ukraine has been hammering oil depots all across Russia, chemical plants, aviation factories. I mean, you name it, they've been smashing everything inside of Russia, anything to do with this war, critical infrastructure just being targeted with drones like crazy. We've been reporting a lot of that recently. But last night, nothing super extreme being attacked as far as I know. But we do have a very big report today coming out regarding North Korea. You can see here on your screen North Korea reportedly preparing to send reinforcements to the Kursk region. Okay, so the Kursk region right now inside of Russia, where the Ukrainians are at when they opened up their offensive back in August. We know they've been fighting against the North Koreans recently. We also had Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, coming out saying that something like one third of the North Korean forces over in that region have been wiped out. So this is probably why they're going to be sending more reinforcements. And then also think about this, January 20th, just 2 days ago, was supposed to be the deadline for Ukraine to be pushed out of the Kursk region, according to Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. So he ordered his forces just a little while back to make sure Ukraine was completely expelled from the region, and they have not been. Okay, they're still inside of the Kursk region right now, digging in, and they have not been pushed out yet. Okay, and if anything, they've actually been making some gains over there, is what's been reported off of a couple counteroffensives that have been launched. Okay, so we'll talk about that today. And then we also have major attacks inside of Ukraine to report. So I guess a lot of the attacks, if anything, are more inside of Ukraine today. Multiple cities were being bombed. We had Kostiantynivka, if I'm pronouncing that right, got hit by 9 glide bombs. These were Fab 250 bombs, 250 kilogram bombs that were being dropped. Lots of homes being destroyed over there today. I'm not sure exactly what the target was, but over 98 civilian objects apparently being damaged. Sumy got hit hard once again today. That's been getting hit a lot. That's up near the Kursk region inside of Ukrainian territory. The city of Mykolaiv, that got hit today as well, or just over the last 24 hours at nighttime. So lots of hits to reports inside of Ukraine today. And then I have several updates regarding some of these oil depots that have been struck recently, some of them still burning today. And I've got even satellite imagery showing the damage at some of these facilities that have been struck over the last week. So we'll kind of talk about that as well as we move forward. But let's go ahead and hop into this, guys. We're going to jump on over here to mainstream news just for a moment. This is from United 24 Media. North Korean troops in Kursk reportedly set to receive reinforcements within 2 months. Okay, this just coming out today, January 22nd, 2025. And it says down here North Korean troops fighting alongside Russian forces in the Kursk region are expected to receive reinforcements within 2 months, the New York Times reported, citing a U.S. senior defense official on January 22nd. Okay, so this was literally just today that this information is just starting to break, that within the next couple months, we're going to be seeing North Korean soldiers heading over to the Kursk region, or a reinforcement batch of them. Okay, it says here the North Koreans, operating as a distinct force with unique tactics, are known for their disciplined and relentless assaults. Ukrainian soldiers and officials describe their approach as unwavering under heavy fire. The North Koreans take many casualties, Ukrainian commander Andriy said, but keep sending new units. It's just forward, forward, he said. It's motivation, orders, and strict discipline, he added. Unlike their Russian counterparts, North Korean units often attack in waves, moving across mine-laden fields without armored support. Once they seize a position, they retreat to prepare for another assault, leaving the site for Russian reinforcements to secure. And it says here Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed that captured North Korean soldiers carried falsified Russian documents to conceal their identities. The presence of North Korean troops adds strain to Ukrainian forces. The Koreans are starting to push the front lines, targeting less defended areas and wearing out our troops that way, said Oleksiy, a platoon commander. He noted that difficulty of fighting two large armies simultaneously, calling it on the edge of what is manageable. Ukrainian soldiers also mentioned that capturing North Koreans alive is nearly impossible. If Russians see Koreans being captured, they use drones to finish them off, killing both the Koreans and our soldiers, Alexei said. Earlier, Zelensky reported that 4,000 North Korean soldiers out of 12,000 deployed have been killed in battles on the Kursk front. So a little bit of information as well about these North Koreans and how they fight, what their tactics are. So from what we've heard from the Ukrainian side, the Ukrainians actually, for the most part, they give a lot of praise to these North Korean soldiers, and they say that they're complete battle-hardened soldiers in a way, that they're not as weak as I guess they kind of intended or expected them to be. So the North Korean soldiers do appear to be pretty effective on the front, is kind of what's been reported. But just wanted to give you a little information on the background behind the North Koreans as well. So let's go ahead and hop into some other news now. I've got several other things I want to share with you guys over here on X. So we're going to jump over to Null Reports, another shipment of North Korean 170 millimeter M1989 Koksan self-propelled guns going to the front lines in Ukraine. Alexander Kovalenko shared this image. These long-range systems are already in use, especially on the Lyman front. Ukrainian soldiers confirmed they act as replacement for lots of destroyed two S4 Tyulpan, if I'm saying that right, heavy mortars. Okay, so this is probably the third or fourth time now that we've reported of these Koksan heavy artillery guns being transferred to the front line coming from North Korea. Looks like North Korea had sent another shipment of these, and we now have another photo. We've had videos of this in the past, especially in eastern Russia, showing these things on trains being transferred to the front line. So it looks like somebody was able to capture another photo of more of these moving to the front. Okay, so that's not good news for Ukraine. Now we'll talk about some of these strikes inside of Ukraine last night. Again, multiple cities being targeted. We'll start off with Mykolaiv here. It says from Null Reports, a Russian Shahed drone hit a residential building in Mykolaiv. Governor Kim reports that 7 drones attacked the city. Also, a private house in Sumy was struck by Shahed drones. Okay, so this picture right here was from Mykolaiv inside of Ukraine. We had a Shahed drone directly striking a residential apartment building is what it looks like here, and it caught on fire. We've got video footage here in just a moment. And then also this photo right here being from Sumy, okay? So Sumy, we've talked a lot about this city, especially after the Ukrainians pushed into the Kursk region. This city started getting targeted a lot, and it makes sense. It's definitely one of the pit stops for Ukrainian soldiers before they move in to the Kursk region. So it looks like we had a residential home directly struck with a Shahed drone. Look at the massive damage to this house, okay? Now also from Max 24, Mykolaiv, okay? So we've got that same photo that we just looked at, but we've got a video here that I can show you guys as well. So let's jump into this video. I think it's only like 5 seconds. Let's take a look. All right, somebody was able to capture video footage of this building on fire. And I believe there were some people injured and maybe killed in this attack. It looks like the direct top of this apartment building took a hit from this Shahed drone. Okay, so we did have some attacks to report inside of Ukraine. Here's some more also from Max 24, the aftermath of Shahed strike in Sumy. Okay, so here's some damage inside of Sumy, that same photo we saw earlier. Here's some other ones as well. This is all the debris from that home. It looks like some of the panels here on the side of the home or something, some sort of shed was maybe sitting right here also. Looks like that was destroyed. Look at all the debris everywhere here just from one single Shahed drone, guys, okay? These things are definitely massive, and I don't know if many of you know how big these Shahed drones are, but some of them are like the size of a small house, okay, or like an SUV, maybe even larger than an SUV. They're absolutely massive, okay? They're not small drones. They're very large, and many of these carry a thermobaric warhead, which penetrates through walls once this thing explodes. It spreads like a powder dust, and then that dust ignites, turns into a flame, and it burns people on the inside. I mean, these things are absolutely devastating whenever they strike buildings, and that's actually what these drones are designed to do with these thermobaric warheads, is to harm people on the inside, not just destroy the homes, okay? So very sad. All right, also from a war translated Dmitry, Russia's attacked state emergency service rescuers twice while they were conducting emergency rescue operations in the Kherson region. Okay, so Kherson has been hammered a lot recently, especially by FPV drones. We've been hearing a lot that the Russians are terrorizing citizens over here with FPV drones. Some of the pictures of some of the damages inside of Kherson. We got firefighter crews trying to put out some of the fires that were caused by attacks down here. So bombs are being dropped on Kherson every single day. This is in southern Ukraine. But FPV drones for sure targeting a lot of areas and sometimes terrorizing civilians, chasing them down the streets with FPV drones. So Russia's definitely attacking this city a lot, okay? And it looks like they're starting to target the emergency crews whenever they show up, and we have seen this happen a lot, even in Kharkiv. What the Russians will do is they'll drop a bomb inside of Kharkiv, and then soon after, maybe 10 minutes later, whenever emergency crews show up, they'll drop another one and double tap the same spot when all these firefighters and emergency crews are showing up, paramedics, whatever it might be. So also from Bliskovka, the enemy attacked Kostiantynivka with 9 Fab 250 bombs. These are glide bombs, guys, and cannon artillery. The Ministry of Internal Affairs reported 1 person was killed and 7 were wounded in the attack. 98 civilian objects were damaged, 8 apartment buildings and 18 private houses, 25 garages, 18 buildings, 12 cars, a cafe, 2 administrative buildings, a boiler house, 7 power lines, and 6 gas pipelines. I mean, look at that, guys. Massive damage to report over here in Kostiantynivka. Now, if you don't know where this town is at, it's in the eastern side of Ukraine in the Donetsk region, very close to Chasiv Yar, okay? And Chasiv Yar is where a lot of heavy fighting has been going on for quite a while now, probably over a year. And it's not too far away from Pokrovsk as well, and Pokrovsk is a town getting very much shelled right now as well. So the entire Donetsk region just under complete attack repeatedly here. We can see all the damage from these attacks recently by Russia. Now we'll move on to Max 24 once again. Ukrainian military writes that for today's Russian terror in Ukrainian cities, there will be harsh retaliation, including increased strikes on Russian oil depots and refineries. Let's wait and see. Okay, so, as we can see here, if the Ukrainian military is coming out and warning Russia that they're going to, hammer back really hard and kind of have a response based on this, this shows that how big these attacks were inside of Ukraine. I know I only have so much information to show you guys regarding to these attacks, but apparently these attacks were pretty bad over the last 24 hours, and the Ukrainian military is expecting to respond to that, okay? Kind of reminds me of whenever Ukraine attacks Russia, whenever they use like ATACMS or Storm Shadow missiles. Anytime Western missiles are used inside of Russia, Russia will come out and say, hey, we're going to respond. That's when they launch a massive missile attack or something. So it looks like Ukraine's going to be doing that soon. Now I want to show you guys a few videos coming out from drones entering into Russia last night. This is from More Translated Dmitry. The Rostov region was visited by buzzing, unidentified flying objects, with local authorities reporting attempts to shoot down about 10 of them. Locals are filming and, as always, are thrilled. So we got a 44-second clip here of drones entering into the Rostov region. I don't know exactly what was being targeted, but drones were entering into Russia. This is southwestern Russia. Take a look.
Это явно не салют.
Нихуя себе. Нихуя, вот он, над головой, ебаный в рот. Смотри, увидел? Я успел заснять.
All right, so definitely some UAV drone attacks to report inside of Rostov last night. Again, this is in southwestern Russia, close to like the Krasnodar region as well. We can see some of the small arms fire of those tracer rounds going up into the skies trying to take down these drones. And if you notice too, many of these drones are flying extremely low, and that was being reported a lot yesterday, that many of the drones that were coming into Russia last night, they were just extremely low altitude. They weren't flying as high as they normally do, maybe to evade some of the air defense systems. So it looks like Ukraine's getting clever with those. Now for Max 24, Lisky Oil Depot. Okay, so we've got a new update regarding the Lisky Oil Depot in the Voronezh region. And it reported this oil facility actually got hit twice over the last week and a half, and it's been burning for probably 8 or 9 days now. Here's a new video. We probably won't watch the whole thing, but I'll show you guys like half of this. Take a look.
Поливаю.
ПЛ-2. Подсветите, ПЛ-2. На приеме. Спину у тебя. Сейчас, подожди, вода должна идти. Сейчас, подожди. Да, вода идет. Я знаю, что мы с долбоёбами, это просто пиздец полный.
All right, so we can definitely see the Liski oil depot still on fire, okay? At least one oil tank reportedly still burning at this time. And like I said, it's been well over a week now that this thing has been burning. It got hit 2 times by UAV drones over the last week, week and a half. So it looks like the firefighter crews still have a headache on their hands here trying to put this thing out. Now take a look at this from Spravdi. Stratcom Center, behind all Russia's global terrorism, invasions, and assassinations, sabotage operations, and disinformation in its oil industry. And here's how that's going. Excuse me. Ukrainians are doing their part. It's up to the rest of the free world to do theirs. Liski, Russia. So new satellite imagery coming out showing the Liski oil depot, the same one we were just watching there, how badly it's been destroyed. Okay, so we'll pause here. This is the original photo before it was attacked. Okay, you can see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's about 14 tanks, right? That were originally here, these fuel tanks or storage tanks. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, at least, maybe even 6 actually right here. This one was also destroyed. So I only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. Okay, out of like 14 tanks that are remaining. And I told you guys this thing was going to burn out probably half or more, okay? And that would be most likely more than half of these oil tanks that have been destroyed at this facility. And that's due to these double tap strikes. And the Russians, the firefighter crews in this area had such a hard time putting the fire out that it continuously kept spreading to more tanks. And we've seen this happening at multiple facilities in Russia. So this thing pretty much completely gone, okay? Barely any tanks left at this facility. Massive loss for the Russians. All right, also from Max 24, the oil depot in Angles is burning in the background. So this is another oil depot we've been talking about over the last week getting double tapped as well, okay? This thing's still burning, probably almost 2 weeks now. Take a look at this one. All right, so it might be a little hard to tell as this camera does not zoom in, but just over here in the distance, you can see a smoke cloud heading this direction, okay? It starts right about there. We'll pause it for you guys right here, okay? Smoke cloud right about here, and it's going up this direction, okay? All the way across the city over here. So the Angles Oil Depot, this is called the Commandant Kristall Oil Depot that's used for the Angles 2 military air base for Russia's strategic bomber fleet over there. The fuel depot still on fire at this time, probably the same thing, going to be burned out 50% or more, okay? So still on fire today as of January 22nd. All right, now for military news UA, Radio Svoboda shows satellite images of an oil depot in the Tula region that was attacked by a UAV on the night of January 18th. At least one fuel tank was damaged as a result of the strike, okay? So yet again, another oil depot that we talked about. This is the Dedilovo oil depot in the Tula region of Russia. And as far as I know, I think only one fuel tank here being destroyed. I think it's this one right here. I don't know if any other ones were destroyed, but it's interesting because from what we understand, this facility was attacked 10 times. There was apparently 10 UAV drones that struck this place. So according to this information, looks like we only have one oil depot, maybe some other ones that might have been damaged here, but that's what it looks like to me. So we do have some damage being reported at this facility as well. So interesting to get these satellite images that come out soon after. Now from Igor Sushko, Russia, downtown Grozny on fire in occupied Chechnya. Okay, so once again, Grozny on fire in Chechnya. I'm not sure exactly how this fire started. This is inside of Russia also. Yeah, so we've been seeing lots of fires reported inside of Grozny recently. Just a little while back, we had gas stations exploding over here, so I'm not sure exactly how this fire started, but we've got a new video here of a massive fire inside Grozny. Take a look at this. All right, so we can see a fierce fire that has broke out on some sort of building over here. I'm not sure if this was being used for military purposes. Was this some sort of sabotage event? We don't really know yet, but if I do get information on what this building is, I'll let you guys know. But you can see here a massive blaze on this building here, okay? So moving on to another update from Military News UA, the Pentagon has allocated $161 million to create a second production line for M777 and M109 155 millimeter howitzer barrels because the only U.S. plant the Watervliet, if I'm saying that right, arsenal cannot keep up with Ukraine's demand for more than 30 new barrels a month. Okay, that's actually crazy that Ukraine goes through 30 barrels a month. They probably even using more than that. But looks like the Pentagon is going to be allocating some funds to create another production line so they can produce more of these barrels for these howitzers, these artillery guns that Ukraine is using. We know that Ukraine is using probably thousands and thousands, maybe even tens of thousands a month of artillery shells. So they're probably going through these barrels like crazy. And they obviously have to be replaced. So it looks like the Pentagon's trying to get that sorted out to get more barrels for Ukraine. Also, for Vicegrad 24, U.S. military aid continues to flow to Ukraine on Trump's first full day in office. A Boeing 747 flying under the call sign Camber 332 for the United States Transportation Command landed in, I'm probably going to completely butcher this name. I think it's Zezau. I'm not sure if you pronounce the R or not, but this is in Poland, from where the military equipment will be sent into Ukraine by land. Okay, so this is a good sign. That means that military equipment for Ukraine is still continuing. I'm not sure if it's going to be to the same level as it was under the Biden administration, but it does look like we are seeing continued aid flowing into Poland, which will eventually go to Ukraine. Okay, so that's good news for Ukraine. Also, from the Ukrainian Review, Marco Rubio, who is the new U.S. Secretary of State under the Trump administration, in case you weren't aware of this, he's a former senator from Florida. We are going to make efforts to ensure that this conflict ends in a stable way, meaning we do not want the conflict to end and then resume in 2, 3, or 4 years. We want to ensure stability. Okay, so I guess that's good news coming out from the Trump administration, or at least from Marco Rubio. At least they're trying to end this conflict and make sure it doesn't spark back up in the next few years. But I'm curious to see how they're going to do that. We've kind of seen some of the outline of Trump's plan to kind of end this war. It looks more like a demilitarized zone is going to get created, and then peacekeeping force will enter in. Zelensky said yesterday, I put out a short for you guys letting you know that Zelensky was saying he needed like 200,000 European peacekeepers to enter into Ukraine to secure the demilitarized zone, if that happens to be the case. So we'll see how this goes, but it does look like the Trump administration is preparing to end this conflict once and for all and make sure it does not spark up again. Now, for Max 24, 6 to 8 months of zeroing the Russian economy with 3 to 4 months of increasing strikes deep into Russia. And then we can see this year completely differently, says Mikhailo Podolyak. Okay, so this is a member of Ukraine's parliament, a politician inside of Ukraine. And so that's what he's stating here. He's saying that 6 to 8 months of zeroing the Russian economy, that kind of means, in my opinion, on what I see there, is kind of like destroying the Russian economy, right? And then continuing deep strikes on Russia, maybe hitting more of their oil depots, that the situation could completely change. And maybe that could be the case. And something that I was thinking about, just kind of speculating, like just imagine if, Ukraine were to strike so many of these oil depots and destroy, let's say Russia's economy implodes, hypothetically speaking. And imagine what would happen if, like, Russia had to withdraw from these regions inside of Ukraine. Maybe they couldn't hold them anymore. Who knows if that'll ever happen, but it was just something that I was thinking about. Imagine if Ukraine was able to push back into these regions and retake them if this war were to go in Ukraine's favor. But it looks like the war is going to end most likely before that would ever be the case, if Ukraine were to be able to hold on that long, assuming that Russia's economy can't maintain this war. But it's just something I was thinking about that I want to throw in there regarding that. Also, for Max 24, Trump orders end of Ukraine war in 100 days, according to the Wall Street Journal. The task falls to Kellogg, who is Keith Kellogg, the special envoy from the United States for Ukraine. He has a plan, but Trump will control the negotiations. Okay, so here's a picture of Trump and Keith Kellogg. So this is a big report. This is actually something I'll probably cover in a separate video today, just to give you guys more information on this. But yeah, apparently Trump is ordering the end of the Ukraine war within 100 days. Okay, so that's good. That means this war could potentially end in the next 4 months, maybe 6 months max. We have already been hearing that's potentially the timeline. There's been lots of reports. Even Donald Trump came out saying, I think it was yesterday, while he was speaking to the press and he was signing executive orders, he stated that he may likely put more sanctions on Russia, but he's kind of moving towards using tariffs instead. But looks like he is going to pressure Russia to some extent to make sure that they come to the negotiating table and strike a deal with Ukraine, is kind of what's been reported. But we may cover this in a separate video today, okay? Also from Nexta, Zelensky, Ukraine will never recognize the occupied territories as part of Russia, President Vladimir Zelensky said that Ukraine would not agree to a compromise that would recognize occupied territories as part of Russia, even under pressure from all allies. Zelensky also said that for Ukraine, the occupied territories will always remain Ukrainian until they return under state control. No matter what anyone wants, even if all the world's allies unite, we will still not recognize the occupied territories. It is impossible. We do not legally recognize them. For us, they will always remain occupied territories until we return there. It was in response to Marco Rubio's recent statements on peace and U.S. President Donald Trump's. Okay, so this is something we've heard from Vladimir Zelensky a lot. Okay, this is most likely something he stated at the World Economic Forum. I think that meeting is going on for several days. It started yesterday. We've been hearing this already that, Ukraine is not going to recognize any of these territories that are taken. Even if this peace deal ends, they're still not going to recognize it. At some point, they plan to retake all their territory back, okay, including Crimea. That's something that Ukraine's been talking about. This is probably also why we heard yesterday that apparently one of Russia's demands is to tell Ukraine to reduce the size of their army down to like 50,000 or 100,000 soldiers or something like that. Much smaller than where it's at right now. Right now it's at, I think, like 800,000 troops. So Ukraine's coming out and saying they're not going to do that, okay? They're going to keep their troop size at the max at 800,000, maybe even increase it. We'll see what happens. All right, now from next to Zelensky, we were deceived that they would take us to NATO. Zelensky has said that the West deceived Ukraine by promising to admit the country to NATO one day. Some countries pursued a not very transparent policy by making false promises about Ukraine joining NATO. President Volodymyr Zelensky said at a meeting with the representatives of the International Media Council in Davos, it was just false words that yes, Ukraine will be in NATO, and I believe that there was a weak position between Germany and the United States because they had a dialogue with the Russians. And I believe that they lost that dialogue. They lost because they always appealed to the fact that they once had agreements with the Russians, the president of Ukraine said. All right, so it looks like Zelensky is starting to get pretty unhappy with the fact that it looks like they may not be able to join NATO. We don't know the full story behind this on whether Ukraine will actually be able to get into NATO or not, but there is a few countries like Slovakia that stated, they would block Ukraine coming into NATO, so they're most likely not going to be able to get in anytime soon. Some countries are supportive of Ukraine joining NATO, some not. So it looks like they are on a tight rope right now in terms of joining NATO, and this was a statement coming out today from Zelensky, okay? Now for Max 24 again, the Royal Navy has been monitoring a Russian spy ship after it entered British waters earlier this week, according to the BBC. John Healy said the vessel Yontar was used for gathering intelligence and mapping the UK's critical underwater infrastructure. Healy added, I also wanted President Putin to hear this message. We see you, we know what you're doing, and we will not shy away from robust action to protect this country. Okay, this was a pretty crazy story coming out today. There's actually lots of big news, and I'm going to try to do as many videos covering all these topics as I can. This could potentially be another video I may do today to talk about this. But it looks like another potential spy ship or Russian spy ship being watched right now by the Royal Navy off the coast of Britain. And it could be, starting to gather intelligence and also mapping the underwater critical infrastructure, maybe to try to target some of the underwater sea cables. We've been seeing a lot of that in the Baltic Sea recently. There was actually a new report today off the coast of Taiwan where we had some cables cut over there, and I'll also try to cover that story. But lots of big news coming out today, so we'll try to cover that later today. Also, from next, Putin could attack the EU in 2028. European intelligence agencies have warned of a possible Russian attack on the EU in 2028. This was stated by the head of EU foreign policy, former head of the Estonian government, Kaja Kallas. Europe needs to spend more in defense, believes Kallas. Also supported Trump's call to rearm and increase defense spending, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. The EU has already provided 134 billion euros to Kyiv since the beginning of the war, 50 billion of which are allocated for weapons. The head of the European diplomacy also said that the number of Ukrainian military personnel trained by the EU countries would reach 75,000 by the end of January. Okay, so once again, guys, another warning coming out that by 2028, we could see war between European nations, other European nations, not Ukraine, of course. Maybe Ukraine could get involved at a later time, who knows? But we've been just constantly hearing this report a lot recently coming out from Europe. Even top officials from NATO have been warning about this, that there's going to be war between NATO and Russia at some point in the future. And this could be potentially around 2028 or 2029 that Russia's getting prepared for that as well. Even the Russian side, they've been coming out and saying the same thing, okay, that they're getting ready for war in the next literally like 3 to 4 years, guys, not too far away. So hopefully that's not going to be the case, but I just want to let you guys know this is being talked about a lot right now over the last couple weeks, okay? Now for military news UA, Finland is preparing the next 27th package of military aid to Ukraine, according to Zelensky. Okay, we're going to be seeing more weaponry coming from the Finns pretty soon. And just yesterday, I think it was Alexander Stubb, the president of Finland. He came out and I think he was shaking hands with Zelensky and meeting with him recently over the last couple days, actually, and telling him that the support from Finland is not going to waver. They're going to continue supporting Ukraine. So, yet again, another aid package going to Ukraine very soon from Finland. Now, from Max 24, European diplomats fear that Putin cannot be trusted to make a fair deal and that any such agreement would merely enable Russia to rebuild its battered forces so it can try to take Ukraine again and potentially head further west, according to the Times. Okay, this was allegedly the report today. Trump's Ukraine peace deal will help Russia regroup, says Army Chief. The American president's vow to broker peace will allow the Kremlin to rebuild and collude with a new axis of aggressors, a senior military official has said. This is something that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been warning a lot about. That any freeze in the conflict is only going to allow Russia to regain its strength, regain their military ranks, fill their military back with new conscripts, new equipment, tanks, whatever it might be, and they'll just launch another attack again later. So, is that going to happen in the future? I guess it remains to be seen, but this was yet again another report coming out regarding this, that Russia could potentially launch another attack onto Europe again later. And again, this ties into the whole 2028, 2029 war between NATO and Russia. Could that be the case down the road? I hope not, but it looks like many officials in Europe and also even in Russia are beginning to be worried about that, okay? Now from next, Ukraine Air Defense Forces destroy 65 enemy drones. In total, on the night of January 22nd, the enemy attacked Ukraine with 99 Shahed strike UAVs and various types of imitation drones, the Air Force reports. The Air Defense Forces targeted enemy targets in Poltava, Sumy, Kharkiv, Cherkasy, Cherniv, Kiev, Khmelnytsky, Dnipro, Mykolaiv, and Odessa regions. 30 enemy imitator drones were lost in the area, okay? So looks like we had 99 drones in total coming from Russia last night into Ukraine. That's why we see so many attacks being reported here. It looks like 65 of them reportedly being shot down and about 30 were lost locally, okay? So it looks like a good majority were taken down, but we still had some strikes being reported. Okay, final update of the day, guys. The Kiev Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of January 22nd, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. All right, it says here Russia's losses as of January 22nd, according to Ukrainian intelligence, 1,950 troops, definitely a little bit higher than normal. We've been seeing right around 1,500, 1,300 recently. So it looks like closer to 2,000 again today. 8 AFVs, 155 vehicles and fuel tanks, 11 tanks, 60 artillery systems, 141 UAVs, 1 special equipment, and it looks like that is it according to this little diagram here, okay? So lots of big hits inside of Ukraine today, and it looks like the Ukrainians are going to be preparing for the North Koreans to be showing up once again in the Kursk region, and we'll see how many are going to be deployed. We don't even know the numbers yet. Could it potentially be another 10,000 or more? Maybe. To me, this is another big sign, too, that the North Koreans are losing a lot of troops. Maybe the force that they sent over there was not effective enough, clearly, because the Ukrainians are still inside the Kursk region, and that's primarily, as far as we know, where they've been deployed at. So let's wait and see what happens here. We'll wait for more information over the next couple of months, how many are going to be showing up. I wouldn't be surprised going to be more than 10,000 again in terms of this next reinforcement wave coming in. So lots of big news, guys. Let me know what you think about all these details down below. That's going to be it for today's update. If you enjoyed this update, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.